Hi everyone, today I'm attempting to paint peonies. This is first peonies of the season, so I don't know yet how it will go. Had to do some preparation, shake off the spiders, ants and all of the insects out. So I may not talk as much in the first part because it's blocking stage and normally I'm trying to focus as much as I can, but I'll try to explain. So I'm starting from the darkest parts and I'm mixing viridian and transparent red oxide. So using bristle brush, big one. It says number 10, I think, yeah. So I'm using this brush and I'm just trying to mess in the leaves that I see, the biggest one. So not separating each leaf, but just in some places there will be still leaves. And I did a drawing just to save some time. So a little bit liquidy and loosely. So this is all greenery around these flowers. Actually this one will be moved a little, not as low. And there is a little bit here as well. So they probably will go off the canvas this time because I just don't think I have enough space, and that's okay too. It may create interest in the painting. So painting leaves in the jar as well as I go. So adding a tiny bit of yellow ochre because I have some lighter leaves here, just so I could kind of identify. I think that would work for now. Also, I may try to paint the jar area straight away before I get into flowers. So I have a grayish background this time, blue-gray material. So I'll use mix some of the gray color as well, so it would be easy. So I'm using ultramarine and transparent red oxide and white. I think that gray should work okay in the jar. And also have the same in the background. Some of it would be similar, some of it will be lighter, some will be cooler, some will be warmer, depending where it is in the go back to my jar just to adjust the color a little here. Then I have very dark areas here that I want to fill in as well, the kind of blue-green. Just want this jar to be done, and so I don't worry about it later that much. So this is the lightest parts, some leaves that I can see, and some of them are very bright. Brightness and I can adjust later as well. So also cast shadow from the jar to see a little bit, and then material. So I'm squinting and comparing the jar to the background material, and I can see that very close in value, but this one's still a little cooler but has some brown in it. So, and then I have a very light area here as well that I don't want to miss. It's kind of like this The same, very light, even lighter on this side. Just want to roughly block it in so I could see the valleys and other indications of what is where. Kind of throw my colors in, and this is wasn't blue, that was green. But as long as I get value right, it should be okay. Kind of roughly blocking in background before I even started flowers, but that's okay. I can, where need, I can wipe. Just want to create my working area. So that's lighter and cooler. There is more brown, I think, here. Unfortunately, not enough space for these two flowers, but I'll figure something out. They can always work for another painting. I don't have to fit them all perfectly. So this is very thin, and I roughly, that's good thing that you can rub it into linen very nicely. So I'm going to do this shadow area, just add a little bit of brown and more blue to make it a little darker. There is kind of folder in this area, and some shadows here. Again, I will do more precise work later. The main thing to block in what I see now while my eye is fresh. That's always, I always say this. I probably will skip tabletop for now. I'll clean my brush and block in some flowers as well. And it will be easier. So I'll start from my main flower, and I'll use warm terra rosa with just a little bit of viridian, a little bit of cadmium yellow deep. So I kind of made, and even added some alizarin, so I kind of made this color dark enough. Squinting. So because I want the middle of the flower be very warm, that's why I'm doing this, because I can see lots of warm pink in it inside. Just to create a different pink, just to see how it will go against it, the cooler pink. I'm just paint some over here in the light area, just to see. Yeah, it should be okay. So keep squinting and try not to lose my middle of the flower. Just a little bit cooler here even, and a little bit warmer, more terra rosa in this area. So try to go with this, and then this pink I mixed alizarin and white. So the gray background really helps me in this case, because I kind of moving this lighter one in the background. So I have some kind of grayish flowers and grayish petals, because they're very highly reflective petals. The purple, just the main thing for me not to be carried away with it. So going back to my terra rosa and adding more warmth to this, and I'll come back to this flower I just have a rough idea where it is in terms of values and colors. And go through the other flower here. So this one is not fully opened, but it's very bright and nice in color, so I want to keep it nice and clean if I can. So I'm using the same terra rosa, a little bit of alizarin, and I added a little bit of viridian, and somehow I managed to get into orange because I thought orange would be nice. Anyway, it can add that warmth. Yeah, actually I'm just squinting and thinking this warmth would work. That orange warmth can work here well as well. So, but that's a little bit too much orange. But you can see that how it creates that nice warmth. So there is a small flower that will be almost green-gray, but for now it will work like this, just kind of roughly. And there is another one. Again, I'm using just the green that I mixed with brown and green and yellow. So I'm going with this flower a little bit thicker while I can. And also I think there is some kind of tints of green in here in this petal. And I go over it again, but I just want to make sure I capture this, what I see now, with big brush as well. It's actually a little bigger, not just a normal bud, it's a half flower, half bud. And has some good pinks here. So probably will be easier to do with a warm, smaller brush. So I'll leave it for now. I think I have to. So that's this one, and then I have another flower. It goes a little bit higher than I painted it, so that's good. Oh, the orange is so bright that I have to kind of try to use different reds and greens to tone it down a little. So yeah, it's really lost my pink here, so I have to make a slightly different mixture here, trying to avoid that orange. That's my pink for the bigger flower. Has lots of dark purple. Actually, I'm using now alizarin and ultramarine both to create a purple color. So it's more in red than in blue, but maybe too bright. So tone it down a little bit with some green. And then it turns from blue into more kind of alizarin pink and a little lighter, so I have to kind of capture that. And it gets much warmer as well. At the same time, at the back there, it's a little dark. I'm glad I mixed lots of alizarin for this painting. Not mixed, prepared, so kind of goes this way more. Just want to make sure that I don't miss the light parts. At the same time, want to tone down some of my whites, some of my ducks, sorry. Okay, so going back a little bit to these green ones where I see at the back some of those greens don't want to lose. That will be the stem. Just I'm trying to figure out where is what. And right now I'm not using the full value available to me for the toning, for the peonies brightness and lightness. I'm just using what I can. So this I said will be a little higher. So that's what I'm doing. This one a little higher, and then it's very interesting, kind of very squashed flower ready to open. And I have another one just coming here, but unfortunately it would not fit this time. Like I said, I may do another painting and it will fit next time. You can see lots of that purple here in the shade. And actually I forgot to mention that I have a cooler light today. The sky is cloudy, so my shadows will be mostly warm, but where I see that the beauty of painting life, when I see something that purple or slightly like cooler or warmer, even though by the rules it should be warm, but I see it cool, I'm going to paint it the way I see it. And that's the beauty of painting life, because you can see much better things that you normally. So I will probably go like this with petals after. Anyway, I think that's it with this bigger brush. Leave it for now. It will be good for my background. That's my block in, I think 90% done. I didn't do my what it's called, tabletop, but it will be very, maybe I'll do it now, it will be like very loosely roughed in. So I'm using some yellow ochre and some ultramarine and some white, so it turned green. So I'm adding some brown in it, just a tiny bit of brown. Actually tabletop also looks a little bit cool, kind of cool beige color. So I'm going to make it a little bit lighter, because it's a horizontal plane, so it absorbs more light than the vertical plane. It's like trees in the park or posts, the same thing. Like stems of the flowers would absorb less light than the horizontal. And my material goes all the way here, so it's kind of merges together. I wanted to make this a little bit lighter, because it is lighter. Anyways, that should work for now. I'll see how I'm going to deal with my material later. So the only thing I noticed, some gray, some nice gray colors that I made. So I can paint around this. Oh, sorry, that's a little bit blue. I'm going to mix it better. I'm just going to kind of carve around this flower in the back while it's wet, because that's what easier to do, and it's actually lighter, so I merge it in there. And it's kind of almost melts into the background. So, and here some background as well. And then I'll paint green leaves over it. And here I have to adjust my shape as well. Maybe I'll do the same for the bigger flower. Just try to figure out the main silhouette of it. Silhouette sometimes is really important, I find, when you paint. Once you do silhouette, it kind of helps to keep the shape right. And I need a little bit of background, lighter background in front as well. So I know that this one has lots of greens around it, so I can leave it possibly the same as here. Yeah, because I probably will have to do some adjustments in the end anyway. Okay, so now I'm putting this big brush, and I will start with my main peony, the one that seems to be the central one. So I'm using alizarin and white, and maybe I'll start with this pure color and see how it goes, and I may have to add some other colors, but for now I think that should work. Just the end of the petals that the biggest ones. I'm not going to paint all of them. So where I lost the depth, I'm going to paint with the darker color on top. So kind of using my best judgment for which petals would be, and I have this peony as well, which petals would be the best to show and which one to leave. So now I'm using a little bit of greenish for these petals at the back. So I use that green color, just lightly mixed it with a little bit of that pink, just to tone down this pink color. And it's very easy to lose the shape with peonies, so especially like here in the dark, so I'm trying to keep it intact as I created it, because I'm trying to squint a lot. It's very dark here, so I'm going to use my viridian, my terra rosa, that is a little bit stiff right now. I have to bring it back to life. Yeah, and kind of go in here, and maybe even a little bit of alizarin, just to keep this shape. Keep it darker. Now I have sun coming, that's not handy for me. Anyway, I'll continue. So this next one is really bright and light, so I added a touch of even yellow to it. To alizarin and to white. I had a touch of yellow because I can see some yellow tints in it. And I added a little bit of cadmium yellow dip as well on this side, but I still need my green with it, because it has that greenish tint on that side. So, and I probably have to make it even darker, just because when I squint it's really dark, even darker than that. So I'm using some viridian, alizarin, and then I added some cadmium yellow dip, so there are some dark greens on this side as well, you can see. And also there are very, like, the petals have not opened yet. There are some very bright petals, so it's alizarin, so I'm using the same kind of, just to create the nice shape and the nice bright colors, trying to keep them fresh. Yeah, just I'm trying to add actually cadmium red light and white, just to see that makes variety in my petals here. So they're very tightly wrapped, I would say. Very, very tightly wrapped, but very beautiful. So hopefully I can show that in the painting. It's hard to show something that's three-dimensional. Anyway, so that's the pod I have here, and actually it's not as round as I made it. So there is always tendency to make things round, even though they're not. So kind of green here. So I'm going to use I had a little bit of green left from my plein air. It's chromium red, or chromium green, but yeah, it's kind of works well for this one. So you can see one coming here, and then I'm using viridian, which is much darker, and some brown, just to show where the darkest part. There is this green part that I missed. There are some greens there, so there are some greens going in the background there. I'll paint over them. And then there is this stem of this peony that I don't want to lose, and it has very interesting color. It has kind of red in it. Yeah, this kind of more yellow and red than anything else. And then I have this one more bud that's almost hidden, but it would be nice to at least give some indication of this bud. So it's very kind of dark, not opened yet, so I'm using again alizarin and counteract it with a little bit of viridian, opposite complementary color on the color wheel. And while I'm there, I'm correcting my background actually a little bit. I need to take different brush, only for this one. And while I'm there, also I'll try not to lose my stem for this one. Unfortunately, I think I lost some background there. Not much, but still. So I have to go back with the leaves that I have here. And I just wanted to show this bud so it would not be as round. I want to show that I noticed that it started kind of opening here. So this way it's not as round. And also has some leaf here as well. Same as here. So I'll continue working on my flowers that I see. So there is another bud that I can see in front of this one, so that's a bigger one. Definitely need to top up my viridian for this, because now I don't have as much color. So I think I showed already, I use a Gamblin viridian. It's a big tube, but it goes long way. I'm using it for quite a while, depending how much you paint as well. So in summer it's very handy because it's not very cool green. I mean, in summer for inside. In summer outside I use different, like phthalo green, with different types of so yeah, so added a little bit of viridian. So these are all very warm colors, but in light it's a little bit cooler. Plus I'm adding a little bit of, like really, like here and here, a little bit of coolness. Going back to my warm pink. This one is very warm. That one was a tiny touch of it. Actually, it's much smaller. Just notice. Sometimes you look at things and then you notice, oh, apparently you notice something that you didn't notice before. Like for example, here I noticed that this petal has a little bit of that tint. So I'm going into my pink again, using some of the pink here, and then alizarin is very good for like separating this green and bud that not came yet out. And I'm going to use some of that chrome green and cadmium yellow dip for this green petal. So I guess I should finish with all petals now. I may as well, and just do another one small. Sorry, I meant bud, not petal. I really meant a completely different thing. So yeah, this one. I'm going to finish with all of them now, and then they're done. A little bit darker here, and it's a very small one as well. Hardly see it, but it kind of adds character. You know, it's peonies, not other flowers. And I probably will use this small brush just to paint background around it. So because it's a little bit smaller than I thought. Same as with the other one. Because I still have lots of leaves coming there. I may try to paint this one and leaves at the same time. So it's a lot of brown somehow happened to my brush at that end. So I have to wipe this off. Go again and go again. Sometimes certain things take time to get right, especially the small ones. That's okay. I'm not sure how long I'm going to make this video, because once you go into details, it's all going to be really the same kind of things. Looking at the same petals, the same flowers, just going through each one of them. So that part of the painting is not my favorite one, but still enjoy it. Still enjoy it. It's just sometimes on the video it becomes boring, I guess. I haven't gone to those other flowers yet, but I just thought I would work a little bit with greenery here. So it's really dark here. There are some greeneries over there, and there is this stem. There are some leaves. Try not to overwork it, keep it free and flowing if I can. So at the same time adding some light bits to the leaves where I see, not to make them very dark. They're kind of all coming in pack out of this middle. That's the way I set it up. So it's kind of all very dark in the middle. Tempted to go into the glass because I like to paint it, but I'm just holding myself from not going in there. And there will be one leaf going as well that goes above jar, so I have to paint that leaf later. In the meantime, I think I will go with the, once I paint these leaves I have here, I go with the leaf at the background. There are no leaves on this side from what I can see, not too many anyway. So I'm going to do the peony in the back now, the one that turned slightly to the back, because I have this nice color prepared from alizarin mixture and white, so just want to paint a little bit more. So I can see some yellow in these ones again. I don't know why, but that's what I see. So I'll try to paint what I see. There's some edge on this flower. It's a very handy mixture of viridian, alizarin and terra rosa for warmer parts here. Maybe it's even a little dark than I think, but and that purple I had in the beginning, it's also so also like they absorb a little bit of background in them. Not absorb but reflect, because they're very transparent, so it's like white material, has the colors of everything that's surrounded. The same way happens with very light pink petals like roses, peonies, not just pink, any light petals. They seem to absorb everything that's surrounding them. Just trying to work around this petal. So there are some interesting lights falling. Oh, I put in the wrong place. Some interesting light falling on these petals. Trying to and again you can see just a tiny bit of warmth, yellow, like yellow in it. So I'm going to carve through this with already color that there. That kind of purple. And then add a little bit of the petals, but by value they're not very different. Just at the very back. They're more different at the back. There is one petal. One petal I can see here. So one petal I see here. On the other side. So to tell the truth, you can study these petals forever, but I'm not normally a big fan of painting huge details. I like ideally to hit as little as possible with minimum amount of strokes. Of course that doesn't work always, but that's what my purpose of learning art, just to try to express the minimum amount of strokes as much as I can. And it's very difficult, but I'm trying. Going back to this one, now I can hit it a little more, then I'll go back to it again, but right now that's what I can do. I probably will use a tiny bit of that yellow as well, just a tiny bit of cadmium red light, just on this very petals that closest to the light. And with all this you have to work back into it. So my big brush is good for carving around shapes. And it's like with trees and sky, you go back and forth. So I would say with flowers and background, it's kind of the same process. sometimes can be longer depending how big the painting and everything else, but I like to go with wet on wet. That's why it's much easier, because once you lost the freshness of the very beginning, it's not as easy, and sometimes when you already got distracted, sometimes it's good of course to look after. I always look next day, but recently I tend to not be bothered, just leave it and continue with the next one. I find you learn more, just leave that painting. Sometimes I put myself notes to do something, then I look at that painting and I'm thinking, there's so many flowers, I'd rather start a new painting. And I'll get back to that if I have time. Some artists go back after winter to their original paintings. I don't do that. Maybe I should start that, but I just don't. I don't like unfinished things. I like to finish things and finish them ideally in one go. But everyone is different. I used to spend more time. I guess you get the speed once you get more painting hours behind your back. So anyway, I'm doing this one flower, but before that, now, because I keep going back and forth on each flower, I noticed some stuff, and that stuff is around that bud, so I'm going to maybe just slightly correct it. So mixing some gray again. I just noticed that it's a little bit flatter. Like I said, I don't want to keep it round. Maybe I need to add a little bit of terra, rosa and viridian for depth when I squint here even more, just to keep the shape better, make it more, maybe even a little bit of brown and green and like a very dark one. I think that will help. Yeah, and then add a little bit of cadmium yellow dip, makes it a little warmer. I don't want to put orange because it will start glowing, and it's not glowing, so yeah, maybe I'll leave it like this for now. So what I see in this one, greens go all the way into the petals. The same as there, background goes in there, but I can also make it green. Then I need to go under some petals as well, just to give more definition, shape. Maybe when the sun came out again, I can do a little bit of lighter parts for this peony. Don't want to go through every petal, but just want to give the impression of light on some petals, some bigger petals here. Then I will use a cooler light, cooler light, I don't know even how to say, like cooler and maybe darker version of that light in the background, in the shade. Because I really don't want to make it so light that it would lose its shape, original shape. So I use some cadmium red light as well for warmth, tiny bit of green, and just to try, see. Because that area should be really dark. I'm using green to tone it down. Just see which areas I can bring a little bit more into shadow. And then I will use a little bit of green, because when I squint, it's kind of gray-green. Even use some cadmium yellow deep and viridian, and just tiny bit of alizarin, just only for some petals here. Maybe I did too much, so I may go back and remove the green, and instead add some more pinky and more kind of cooler that I did originally, because I really don't need to pay too much attention in the shade. So still something not 100% right with this one. When I look at it again, keep coming back to it, so I think this one goes a little bit like this. Yeah, this overlaps the petals. And this one, not here, but a little lower. So that kind of helps, yeah, make it a little flatter. And now I will go to the petals that on this very end. So they look to me more like lilac type, pinky blue, especially at the bottom here. But at the same time I see some warmth in them, so it will be interesting combine both. So I'm adding tiny bit of cadmium yellow deep in that mixture I made. And that's the color I see there. So I'm using again my mixture for the shadow, just to go through the main areas. I think that flower already opened a little more. Looks very interesting. Looks very interesting right now. Some petals kind of, they're all packed so well that I just it's very interesting. And the other flower, it kind of goes here, and there is one petal even falling off it, but it's in a different direction. So I'm not going to paint that flower, but and now I'm going to use again the same thing, carving through background, carving with background for this flower. Especially interesting gets when the light changes and the sun gets out. Like I said, because it's not my main flower, I think just some indications. Petals should work. This one maybe goes a little bit darker here as well. So I think I showed the main principle for peonies. I don't think I need to show the glass in this particular video because I paint glass and vase in lots of other videos. Like all I'll be doing now is just going with this brush into greens. And again I will do stems with yellow ochre and that chromium green, just to indicate some stems, and use some cooler green with addition of white to indicate the cooler flowers that turn to the light, to cooler leaves, sorry. And then I will be looking at silhouette once again and going through silhouette of the flower, or I don't know what the best way to say, the outline or the contour, but just to there's some leaves going this way, and there are some leaves going that way at the background as well. I may bring the value of the jar higher. It means that it will be lighter in some areas. There's this bright green. Some bright greens going there as well. And of course, as always, there is this one even lighter. So I'm going to put this leaf even lighter. And some leaf here. And then I have a area where the jar is very dark, so I'm going to paint that as well. The bottom is dark. And of course I'll correct the geometrical form of it, because I always get it either one way or the other, right, either left or right, is something going on with it. So to make sure the sides of the jar is parallel. And of course I'll put a highlight. I think my highlight this time is hidden by the leaf. There is a little bit of highlights here at the bottom. missed my darkest part. I think this highlight is a little bit too much. Have to do it again. Actually, I'm going to wipe it. So there is some very bright yellow on this side of leaves. I will do those first. Same as there are some nice stems under this leaf, and then I'll paint the leaf again. So there are some even brown color. There are some now I can paint this leaf all over again, and it will be even brighter. Just because I have sun out again, and because I have a leaf going over, I don't think I will have any highlight. I'm just going to mix thicker paint with viridian. So there are some leaves in there. It's kind of brown, and there's one big leaf coming all the way here. That's a lot of paint I loaded, of course. This leaf is curling a little bit. Just want to make sure I capture that. Still a little brighter even in this area. Same as where light goes through. I had just very little indication of light going through here as well, where the shadow falls. I actually need to do cast shadow, I think, better. Problem is that this time I have this gray material coming over it, so I don't really have much of cast shadow in there. Thin, it's covered. There is cast shadow, but it's covered. So that's my gray in the desert I had originally. I think it looks better when I put it back. Yeah, maybe I did the bottom too dark. So there is only a little bit indication of the jar curving here, so I think I'll do that because then it's easier to see. I can put some little indication of highlight here, and there is some water there actually, so this way it's seen that there is some water there. there is this little rim. Okay, so I think that video is long enough for anyone to watch. I hope you learned some interesting things about peonies. I hope you have peonies available. In some areas they're not available if it's too hot, or if it's too rainy. They're very tender flower. I'll try to post this photo. If you don't have peonies, you can use my photo. I hope I can do it good. I'll try my best, and I hope to see you again on my channel. Thank you for watching, and happy painting, everyone.